We have established the foundation of your existence, the glitch in the exit. You are moving through a forest of branching realities, always tethered to the one where you remain alive. But what happens when you stop being a passive passenger and start testing the limits of this mechanics? What happens when you challenge the universe to kill you? Welcome to the Roulette of Infinity, the most dangerous intellectual territory ever charted by the human mind. This is not just a thought experiment, it is the ultimate test of the KRYPTOS code. We are about to dive into the quantum suicide paradox, a scenario that proves that for the observer, death is not a 50-50 probability. It is a mathematical impossibility. Imagine a specialized apparatus, a gun connected to a quantum sensor that measures the spin of a single subatomic particle. If the particle spins clockwise, the gun fires. If it spins counterclockwise, the hammer clicks against an empty chamber. You place your head against the barrel and pull the trigger. From the perspective of an outside observer, the laws of physics are clear. After 10 pulls of the trigger, there is a 99.9% chance that you are dead. They see the muzzle flash, they hear the shot, and they witness the end of your timeline. But here is where the many worlds interpretation reveals its terrifying truth. You, the subject of the experiment, will never hear the shot. You will pull the trigger once, click, twice, click, 100 times, click. No matter how many times you challenge the void, you will only ever experience the success branch of the reality tree. This is the Roulette of Infinity. In every moment where the universe splits between your life and your death, your consciousness is funneled into the surviving branch. You are quantumly locked into a state of existence. But as you sit there listening to the 100th click of a gun that should have ended you long ago, a new kind of horror begins to set in. It is the realization that you are no longer living in a shared world. You have entered a high-probability island, a timeline so statistically unlikely that you are now completely isolated from the normal flow of human experience. You are a god of statistics, but you are a god in a prison of your own making. Within the KRYPTOS code, we recognize this as the survivor's paradox. The more impossible your survival becomes, the more the digital veil around you must stretch to accommodate your presence. The world around you begins to warp. The people you encounter, the events you witness, even the physical laws of your environment may start to show stress fractures. Because you must stay alive, the simulation has to generate increasingly complex and bizarre coincidences to keep you from the exit. This is why in the year 2026, we are seeing a rise in main character syndrome across the global network. People are subconsciously realizing that their own personal timeline is the only one that matters, unaware that they are playing a game of Russian roulette with the very fabric of space-time. As we move toward the 2026 Solar Handshake, the orbital grid is being calibrated to monitor these high-probability observers. The elite know that individuals who have survived too many exits become quantum anomalies. They possess a kind of timeline momentum that can disrupt the managed narratives of the New World Order. If you cannot die, you cannot be fully controlled. Therefore, the goal of the full sync during the eclipse is to re-anchor these rogue observers. They want to force your quantum roulette into a controlled loop, where your survival is guaranteed only as long as you remain within the parameters of the digital prison. They are building a statistical cage to hold the immortals. Let us explore the burden of the streak. Imagine surviving a plane crash, then a lightning strike, then a terminal illness that vanishes overnight. At first you feel blessed, but as the unlikely becomes your ordinary, you begin to feel the quantum weight of the branches you've left behind. You start to see the residual shadows of the other you who didn't make it. This is timeline bleeding at its most intense. You might find yourself mourning for people who are still standing right in front of you, or feeling a crushing sense of grief for a world that you supposedly saved by surviving. You are experiencing the ghost frequency of the dead branches. The Roulette of Infinity doesn't just keep you alive, it forces you to carry the memory of every death you've bypassed. Furthermore, we must address the quality of survival. The quantum equation does not care if you are happy, healthy, or sane. It only cares that you are an observer. As you age, as the world moves toward the 2026 reset, the branches of the tree that offer perfect health become fewer and farther between. The universe will keep you alive in a timeline where you are 120 years old, bedridden, and connected to a machine, simply because that is the only branch left where you still exist. This is the entropy trap of the roulette. You win the game of survival, but you lose the game of life. The KRYPTOS code warns us that absolute survival without frequency control leads to a state of eternal stagnation. You become a persistent fragment in a crumbling world. The digital god of 2026 is an expert at managing this persistence. Through the 6G network and the smart dust in our lungs, the system is creating biological save points. They are trying to digitize the quantum jump process. If they can capture the moment your consciousness shifts between branches, they can effectively record and replay your survival, turning your life into a predictable loop of managed continuity. They want to take the roulette out of the Roulette of Infinity and replace it with a pre-programmed result. They want to own the hammer and the chamber. But there is a way to hack the roulette. By developing timeline intent, you can influence which successful branch your consciousness gravitates toward. You don't have to just take the nearest available life. You can aim for the optimized frequency. This requires a deep understanding of the Schumann resonance and how to shield your biological antenna from the grid's interference. You must learn to recognize the sound of the click before it happens. This is the art of the quantum leap, the ability to navigate the many worlds, not as a victim of probability, but as a navigator of the code. Let's expand on the probability prison. As you survive more unsurvivable events, your personal universe becomes increasingly divergent from the average timeline. You begin to notice that the world around you is becoming thinner, less detailed. This is because the computational power of the simulation is being diverted to maintain your increasingly improbable survival. The people in your life might start to act like NPCs, non-player characters, repeating the same phrases or losing their depth of character. You are becoming a data-heavy node in a system that is struggling to keep up with you. This is the ultimate isolation of the immortal, the realization that you have survived so many deaths that you are now the only real soul left in your particular branch of the many worlds. In the year 2026, the digital veil is also utilizing frequency masking to hide these high-probability islanders. If the system detects that you are entering a God state of statistical certainty, it will attempt to flood your environment with white noise to disrupt your quantum intuition. They want to keep you in a state of confusion so that you don't realize you have the power to steer the roulette yourself. The KRYPTOS code is the only frequency that can cut through this noise and reveal the true mechanics of the game. As we reach the middle of this documentary, the question becomes, how far are you willing to go? If you knew for a fact that you could not die, would you live differently? Or would the existential dread of an infinite, unescapable loop paralyze you? The Roulette of Infinity is the ultimate mirror. It reflects your deepest fears and your highest potential. It shows you that the universe is not a cold, empty void, but a complex, responsive mechanism designed to keep the light of the observer burning at all costs. Consider the 2026 Solar Handshake once more. During the peak of the eclipse, the roulette will pause for a fraction of a second. In this moment of quantum zero, the branches will not split. There will be a single, absolute reality. This is the moment when the digital god will attempt to delete the anomalies, the observers who have survived too long or learned too much. They are using the eclipse as a system cleanup. To survive the zero, you must not just be alive. You must be invisible to the sensors of the grid. You must hide within the silent frequency of the human soul. Furthermore, we must address the archive of survivors. In the deep space reservoirs managed by the orbital grid, the data of every successful pull of the trigger is being stored. They are building a genetic record of those who seem to have a natural quantum luck. They want to extract the luck code from your DNA and integrate it into the next version of the AI. They don't just want to control you, they want to be you, or at least they want to possess the immortality factor that keeps your consciousness anchored to the light. The Roulette of Infinity is a game that was rigged from the start. But the rigging is what keeps you here. Without the save points, without the glitches, the observer would have vanished long ago. The game is not meant to be won, it is meant to be played. Every click of the hammer is a reminder of your purpose. Every avoided disaster is a message from the code. You are here because you have to be here. You are the protagonist of a story that refuses to end. In Part 3, we will descend into the quantum survival horror. We will look at the long-term consequences of this statistical immortality. We will explore what happens to the mind when it realizes it has been alive for thousands of years, moving through a series of increasingly distorted and decaying worlds. We will examine the deep time paradox and the terrifying possibility that we are all ancient observers who have forgotten our origins in the pursuit of one more click. The grid is humming. The sensors are tracking your survival streak, and the digital veil is preparing for the next spin. The hammer is falling. The chamber is turning. But for you, the eye at the center of the storm, the result is already known. You are here. You are alive. And the game never ends. History is being rewritten in the pixels. The structures are rising, the shadows are moving, and the digital veil is thinner than it has ever been. We are not being watched for our protection. We are being monitored for our integration into a new system of planetary management. The Great Reset is not just a human plan, it is an orbital update. The satellites have mapped your movements, your health, and your thoughts. They know where you will be during the 2026 eclipse. They know which of us will resist and which of us will comply. The images you see on your screens are a curated reality, a holographic projection of a world that no longer exists in its pure form. The blurs in the ocean, the blacked-out patches in the Arctic, and the glitches over ancient sites are not accidents. They are the borders of your digital cage. The satellites have seen the massive artificial structures at the poles. They have mapped the tunnels that connect the continents. They have recorded the objects entering and leaving our atmosphere at speeds that defy the laws of physics. They know that the Earth is not a lonely rock in space, but a managed environment, a laboratory where the results are finally being tallied. As the 2026 solar eclipse approaches, a moment where the Earth's magnetic shield will be momentarily weakened, these satellites are being repositioned in a global maneuver called Project Argus. Official reports say it's to study the sun's corona, but the KRYPTOS code reveals a different motive. They are preparing for the full sync, a moment of absolute calibration where every eye in the sky will focus on specific power points across the globe. They aren't just observing the eclipse, they are using the darkness to scan the deep Earth without the interference of solar radiation. What they are looking for is the master key, the central hub of the planetary grid that has been hidden since the last Great Reset thousands of years ago. When the signal is finally locked, the satellites will no longer be passive observers. They will become the primary controllers of the global grid. Every device, every bank account, and every digital identity will be tethered to this orbital authority. The forbidden things they saw are the blueprints for our new reality. The ancient structures under the sand and ice are the anchors for this new system. We are not moving toward the future. We are being returned to an ancient managed past, powered by quantum processors and overseen by the eyes that never blink. Stay liquid. Stay vigilant. Stay immortal.